Campbell about it. They asked Brad Holmes about it. Um, where is Hendon Hooker next year?
Uh, I think Hendon Hooker is on a prove it year. Um, he has to. It depends. It all depends on Hendon Hooker, man. I think it all depends on what golf does this year and what Hendon Hooker does this year. I don't think there's a solid plan for Hendon Hooker right now. Um, he had that first year where he was hurt. Uh, he didn't really grasp on like they wanted to for him to do last year. Not that I feel like they could have gave him more opportunities because there were games where I felt like golf could have sat down and they could have put him in there and let him shine. But for the most part, yeah, man, I just think it's whether they see what they want to see out of Hendon Hooker this year, and I don't know, man. From what I'm hearing so far, they feel like he has the potential to, but he hasn't yet.
This upcoming draft, 3-4 weeks from now, a team calls you up and they offer you a second round pick for Hendon Hooker. Do you take it?
Not yet, man, because I really want to see what I got in Hendon Hooker.
You want to see what you got in Hendon Hooker, or the team wants to see what they got in Hendon Hooker?
I'm saying if I'm the team, I want to see what I got in Hendon Hooker.
And Hendon Hooker shows you that everything you asked him to improve on, he's worked on, and he's actually improved on all those things. Now what?
I mean,
You got the
you
highest.
know my
You
answer.
got you got the highest paid quarter. You got the highest paid backup quarterback. The highest paid quarterback room in the league.
Hey, you know my thoughts on Hendon Hooker, man. If Hendon Hooker shows you everything that you want to see from him, you got to have a conversation about giving him the keys.
Hey man, I can appreciate that, but what I will say is that I was thinking about it, and my favorite thing about this Lions organization, front office, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell. I love these guys, man. I might talk shit about them, or I might question their decision making or what they do, but I gotta be honest, man. I love this regime, and and the biggest factor on why I love them so much probably is that in years past, around this time, we would look we would look into draft prospects. We would hear all the names and we would be so excited. And then, God, what's my man's name? I can't even think of my man's name. Bob Quinn would go out there and he would draft Jelani Tavai in the second round. And no amount of draft preparation will have you prepared for them to take Jelani Tavai. Now I will say it was the third or the fourth round, but Brad Holmes did make all types of trades and move mountains to draft Giovanni Manu, who had no draft profile picture. But I'll give him a pass because he's hit a lot more than he's missed. But that being said, what I love about this team so much is that they are predictable, and that's not a bad thing. That's good. Consistency is a great attribute for leadership, and they definitely show consistency. And nothing have they nowhere have they shown any any inkling that Jared Goff is not going to be their guy or anything of that nature.
Oh, Jared Goff hasn't given them a reason to, man. I feel like if Jared Goff hadn't had the 2 seasons that he had, that they would have moved on for Jared Goff. But he did. He did have a season, and I feel like they didn't have a choice but to stick with
Probably
him.
probably the worst
But
thing that could have happened to the Lions.
But I mean, I feel like if I feel like they draft. I mean, and in order to back that thought up, I feel like that's the whole reason they drafted Hendon Hooker in the first place because uh, no, that was right before Jared Goff had his two amazing seasons, and no, they were preparing to move on from Jared Goff. But then Jared Goff did have those 2 seasons, and they had to extend them. And I feel like if they were going to move on from Hendon Hooker, then they would just do it now. But another thing that we know about the Lions teams is they give uh, each guy every chance that they possibly can to show that he's the guy that they're looking for, and then it comes down to well, this is his last chance, and for Broderick Martin, for Hendon Hooker, for Levi Onwuzurike, for all these guys, Josh Pascal, this is their season, and yeah, if they don't show you the things that you want to see this season, I'm with you. They will move on from all of these guys, but it's not written in stone yet, and that's where I'm at with it.
I think the only way that Hendon Hooker stays a Detroit Lion in a meaningful fashion is something catastrophic happens to Jared Goff and Kyle Allen because at this point I'm not sure that they put Hendon Hooker in. I really didn't like and Dan was so casual about saying it. Dan Campbell said that they brought in Teddy Bridgewater because I don't know if it was Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes. They might have both said it, but they said they brought in Teddy Bridgewater because uh, Hendon Hooker just wasn't ready. And I mean, I get it. You going on a playoff run, playoff football is different from regular season football. I get it, but just the fact that he said it like it was a no brainer. Like this kid's not even ready. We're bringing in Kyle Allen for competition. If he wants the backup position, he's gonna have to earn it. All these things. The way they talk about Hendon Hooker is the exact same way they talk about Jameson Williams. They did talk about Jameson Williams, which was like, he's got a ways to go. He's got a ways to go. He's got a ways to go. And the fans on the outside are hearing this, and we're like, nah, let this guy go. And it just took so long for him to finally get his opportunity. And luckily, J-Mo has nobody in front of him. Hendon Hooker's got a $53 million quarterback in front of him.
So let me. So the window is running out on guys. So like that's what our main conversation it has been. So let's talk about whether Hendon Hooker is like, okay, so either he does or he doesn't have a great season. Let's say Hendon Hooker has a great season. Let's talk about two scenarios. So Hendon Hooker has a great season, or Hendon Hooker does.
Real quick, what do you mean when you say he has a great season?
Like you start to hear a change in how they talk about him. Like, oh man, this guy's hitting everything that we wanted to see from him. This is the reason we drafted him. No, he's doing all the things that we want from him, and he, you know what I'm saying, well, they're not gonna say that he's the guy, but you know what I'm saying, but you get a sense of feeling that he could be the guy if they needed him to be. All right, that's what I mean by a good season, or he just does what he's been doing, and he doesn't and he doesn't do anything at all. He's the same guy he is right now. And then on top of that, Jared Goff goes on and he has a good season, but he does what he did last year, and he loses you a playoff game. At that point, if Hendon Hooker does have a good season, do they move on from him, or do they move on and give Hendon Hooker the keys with that season that Jared Goff just had, or do they draft another quarterback, or do they just say fuck it, we just gonna keep rolling with Goff?
They're gonna keep rolling with Goff. Again, the way that Brad Holmes, like, bro, if I didn't take anything walking away from that Brad Holmes interview, don't let it be any question that Brad Holmes is completely knowledgeable about this team's cap situation. And the only option that they have with Goff and him not playing is to bench him and and let him ride the bench until, I think, not next year, but the following year. I want to say it's 2 years at least, and then on that third year, if you got rid of Goff, it would only cost you like $30 million, I think. But everything else, it's like its cap hit next year is like, it's like 80. Oh man, it's something crazy. I think it's like $80 million its cap hit is next year. So you like this guy. If you got rid of Goff, man, it would put you in cap hell, which is basically the complete opposite of everything you've done so far, is to stay out of cap hell. So you can't move on from him in that sense. Can't even trade him. You can't cut him. You can't do nothing with him for like the next 2 years. And Hendon Hooker would honestly be your only hope, unless you brought in a bum quarterback that got cut somewhere, or you made a trade for my new favorite backup quarterback in the league, Joe Milton. I mean, those are like your only couple of options. But I don't see. I just don't see Jared Goff going anywhere in the near future. Which is
I don't
why I
know
said
that.
him having them two great seasons, man. While they were fun, while we were going through it, man, and the Jared Goff chance, but man, we might look back and be like, man, if he just hadn't had those great seasons, what would what would have it been?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, and you're right about that, but it's just, I mean, if you get to a point where you feel like Jared Goff can't get it done, and you see somebody who you feel like may be able to, I don't see how you don't make the switch.
Yeah, but I mean, not to harp on the subject, but we felt like that when Jared Goff came here. Like we felt like he wasn't the guy, and they just, you know, Dan Campbell begged and plead and cried for him to turn into the guy. And Brad Holmes never showed any uh, reservation on whether or not he was the guy. He told you, like, no, this guy was not a throw in. This guy is the guy. You guys just wait and see. So, you know, for them to just be like, we were wrong on everything we said, like like those 2 seasons that we keep referring to, those 2 seasons justified and vindicated them. Like, we told y'all this was the guy, and then for them to backpedal and be like, nah, maybe he's not the guy. I don't see it.
I don't know, man. Jared Goff has every season. Jared Goff has 2 bad games, and those 2 games have ultimately hurt us in those 2 seasons. Other than that, he's had a great season. But if he has that bad game, if the team is running on all cylinders, just like they were last year, even though we were hurt, I feel like even though we were hurt, it wasn't the injuries that put us out of the playoffs last year. It was Jared Goff, and if he has that 5 interception or 5 turnover game again in the playoffs, man, it's just, he's the problem. If everybody else is playing great and he has a five turnover game because he has two every year. He had two the year before, even though he had a great season. He had two the year before, and he had two this year. Now we came back and won one of them, but the second we had was in the middle of everything we wanted. You know what I'm saying? So if he does that again, like, how is it not evidence? Like, yeah, you told us so, but you know what I'm saying? If he does it again, then you have to reevaluate.
I fully agree with you. The only thing I can equate it to is, um, you know, you just driving through a neighborhood and you look up and you see a house and it says for sale, and you like, wow, that house looks pretty good. And then you say, yeah, whatever. Let me just take a look on the inside. And you take a look on the inside and you're like, wow, this house is amazing. And then you call the realtor and everything, and they say, yeah, the house is for sale. And then you say, well, how much? And then they uh $1 million. You're like, what? But it's like, man, your girl, your wife, your whoever, spouse is like, honey, we got to get this house. And you put everything that you had, you get the mortgage and everything, boom, 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 and finally this house is now yours. And you start to move in, and then next thing you know, the ground is sinking. The neighbors are terrible. Gunshot, you're hearing gunshots, and it just isn't what you thought it would be. And hey, that person comes to you and say, "Hey, man, I think I might have made a mistake buying this house." And the person be like, "Yeah, it would be a good idea for you to move." And you would be like, "Yeah, but I can't get a return on my investment. What do I do? Do I just dive off dive off the deep end, or do I stick it out?" And I feel like that's what Lions are, man. They put that offer down. I like, bro. The worst thing they could have did was put that offer down. That's the worst thing they could have did was put a ring on it. Like, bro, like they are committed
Yeah,
to this
but say
man.
you paid all that money. You paid all that money for that house, and then in the middle of all that, you know what I'm saying? The house is still a good house, other than the neighbors and the ground sinking and all that shit. But in the middle of that, you see this other house in a different neighborhood, and you like, man, that's the house I thought this house was gonna be.
Yep, I'm with you. And now we could just only sit. It's the Kermit. It's the Kermit meme where he's just standing looking out the window in the rain. And then
I don't know, man. You know what, man? The situation is too complicated. I don't know if we'll know what the future has to bring until we get there. I don't know, man. I think the Lions are on the wait and see. I think Brad and Dan are on the wait and see. And best case scenario, we don't even have to worry about it. Golf doesn't have those two games this year, and
oh no, go ahead. I'll finish. I'll let you finish.
Golf doesn't have those two games this year. He's everything that they wanted to be, and then we don't have to worry about it. But I don't know, man. He's proven pretty consistent in them two games.
Back to the whole things I love about Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Honesty. Honesty is a huge thing as well. They are very honest with the fan base and with the media. They pretty much give you everything except for they give you as much as they can. And Dan Campbell said something, and of course it stuck with me because it's something I've been saying. And Dan Campbell came out and said it. And a reporter asked him about the upcoming schedule and the away games, and he said, "Hey, of course," he said, "This Dan Campbell answer, bring it on. It's a lot of outdoor games, a lot of grass. We hope it rains. We hope it pours. You know, we're excited. We're ready for it. But that being said, he said that there is uh there's a scenario where this team is better than they were last year, but they lose more games or they have a worse record, but they're better than
Right.
they are last year. And I completely agree with that because we talked about it. We went on and on. But that being
Yeah,
said,
I can see that.
it's going to be more than 2 games when Jared Goff looks bad, and he's going to need guys to bail him out. He's going to need defense to step up, and it's going to take a big effort for them to, like I said, in my opinion, it's going to take a big effort from the whole team for them to make the playoffs. It's not going to be easy. I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs, but I am saying that you got to be careful. And Jared Goff, I'll put it like this: Jared Goff has a great opportunity to prove me and you wrong on what his ceiling is, because I feel like me and you are both in agreement that we've seen Jared Goff's ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Real quick about Jared Goff, I just want to put out there that honestly, when I say he's reached his ceiling, I don't think he needs to go above his ceiling to make the Lions a Super Bowl champion. I just think he needs to learn how to play within himself. You know, when they went on that run and made it to the NFC Championship against the 49ers, we needed like one more play. You know, the Josh Reynolds drop. Could that ball have been placed a little bit better? Yeah, and maybe had it been placed a little bit better, he would have caught it. But like that right there, if we could get that Jared Goff next year, that would be great. Because he
I agree.
didn't have outstanding numbers. He wasn't throwing, like, I think he had more yards this year than he did that year. But that Jared Goff, I liked a lot more, and I feel like he did less. So if we could find that Jared Goff, I think that's the best scenario for Jared Goff to be a Super
He
Bowl
just
champion with the Detroit
he just
Lions.
has to not make those mistakes and turn the ball over 5 times in the game.
Yeah,
That's all I want. That's all I want from Jared Goff. A season where he doesn't turn the ball over 5 times in the game.
Detroit